Welcome to the Helicopter Podcast, your go-to source for all things rotorcraft. I'm Halsey Scheider, bringing you the stories, insights, and conversations from around the helicopter industry. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, a maintainer, or you're just passionate about helicopters, this is the podcast for you.
We did like a 3-day exercise, kind of talking about who we are, what we believe, and we kind of did our mission, vision, values, how we're perceived now, and how we do want to be perceived, and what's important to our dealers and our customers, and really, again, going back to how do we want them to feel. And we came to this climb higher conclusion that it could mean a whole lot of different things, which at this point in time, I'm sure you've seen it is. It's our video series. It's a book. It's our dealer and service center campaign that we use. It's part of our advertising campaign. And it's not just about, climb higher in elevation, but, take yourself higher in whatever it is you're doing. So it just really encourage our employees, our dealers, our owners, and everything to what can we all do to go for more? And it worked, and it works across all the platforms. So it's a tagline that we can really take with us to really embody who we are and where every one of us collectively wants to go.
Thank you to the following sponsors for making this episode possible: Verticon Aviation International, Quantum Helicopters, and Robinson Helicopter. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Halsey Scheider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am excited to be podcasting today and having super cool conversations with super cool people throughout the industry. And my guest today, Robyn Eagles from Robinson Helicopters, is someone that I'm super excited to chat with. I've known Robyn now for probably going on 2 years, maybe just a little under. I met you officially at HAI, when it was still HAI 2 years ago, in Anaheim, I think it was.
Yep.
And we've now been working together, doing some fun podcasting with, of course, David and Randy, and I think Sean and other members of the Robinson team. So it's really cool to have Robyn join us because Robyn is going to give us kind of a behind the scenes look at all the really neat marketing that's been happening with Robinson this past couple of years, ever since there's been a regime change. So super excited to dive into that. But of course, first, thank you to MHM Publishing and the Verticon HeliCASTS platform for making this podcast possible. And to our sponsors, including Robinson, we're so grateful for your guys' sponsorship and trust in this podcast. We absolutely love the brands that sponsor us. And it's a pinch me moment. I got to be honest. I've told David this before, Robyn. Robinson Helicopters is what gave me my wings, right? So the fact that now I get to connect with you and David and Randy and the entire C-suite of Robinson, and then I also have Robinson sponsoring my podcast, it doesn't really make sense. And so I'm grateful for that and just super excited. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I often think too, Robyn from Robinson and Eagles, you were just meant to be marketing
meant to fly
at an aircraft manufacturer. So first and foremost, before we get started, I don't think you can kind of see it fully behind me, but it will show. But I have my Climb Higher book that I fairly stole at Europe this year. And I even got it signed by John and Jude.
Oh, that's great.
They made it out to Aubrey, my daughter. So I thought that was super cool. And yeah, this is a really cool marketing initiative. So I think we should talk about this as well today. But just I love the whole Climb Higher series and the idea of showcasing, Robinson Helicopters and all the cool things that Robinson does. Let me just put this back nicely so it's in frame. But here's my whole thing on how I explain Robinson right now. And you can tell me if this feels about accurate, but I feel like Robinson is like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory, meaning it's a very successful company. It's been a very successful company for over 50 years.
Yep.
Frank Robinson is a true innovator, an engineer first, entrepreneur. Without Frank, many people like me wouldn't have ever learned how to fly helicopters. That said, it was pretty closed door, right? You could go there for the safety course, you get a little peek in the factory, but the marketing was essentially kind of non existent. And then Shazam, like 2 years ago or whenever it was, where David took the helm,
Yeah.
David Smith, of course, and now brought you on as VP of marketing, and brought Randy and other folks on. It's like the floodgates opened, and it kind of reminds me of Willy Wonka. Is that a fair comparison?
Um, I mean, I look at our factory. I think when you say Willy Wonka, I think about our factory. I mean, because we make everything here. We're like 85% vertically integrated. So, you can come here and you can see how the blueberry bubble gum is made, and you can see the chocolate fountain, and you can see all of those things. So in that respect, yes. But I would say that our doors being open and you having access to David and Randy and Sean and myself is really more of a reflection of how we are as an executive team. David is extremely accessible, and Randy and I as well. I tell everybody my cell phone number is the number you should call. Don't call my desk phone; I won't answer it. My email signature has my cell phone number in it. We want to be accessible. We want to make sure that we're here to talk and to help. We know we're all new faces, and so we need to make sure that people know us and trust us, believe in us, and if they ever have any questions or concerns, that we are available to you. It's 24-hour business. We're global. I mean, I'm answering calls in the morning, calls at night. I wake up at 5:45 in the morning, and my dealer in Austria, I'm texting away, of course, happy to help you.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
But so Willy Wonka, come visit us, but we're an open, accessible team. So we're always here for that.
Yeah, and it's wild, and it's easy for maybe you to maybe listeners to think, oh, okay, that's of course, every company is going to say we're available. I can attest, truly available. In fact, we had a client recently that was having some issues with one of their avionics units in their R66, a used unit, wasn't bought new or anything like that. And through Facebook, I actually got connected with David. And through that whole process, worked together, including some help from me and Randy. And now there's a kind of a pathway of helping this client out with getting some of the bugs fixed with his avionics. And it's just not anything that you would ever really see from really any OEM, in my opinion. I think that that's really unique. I think David's a unique individual
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
in that regard, right? He's very active. How do you obviously, part of marketing is, PR and things like that. What is your relationship with David, and how long has it taken to really understand each other, and how do you kind of get him in the directions that you want to also make sure that he's talking about?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to get him to do anything. I think it's I'm listening to him and kind of putting pieces together from the narratives that he talks about. It's really an incredibly great opportunity that I can sit in on a lot of his interviews or business meetings. And it's just something he says that kind of sparks an idea of we should be talking about that. We should be pushing that. We should talk about that more. Let's turn that into a bylined article or a podcast because he's incredibly smart, and he knows every area of this business. And so sometimes he's just getting day-to-day business done, taking care of our customers, our business partners, our dealers. But some of the points he makes are extremely valid and can be shared more broadly to help drive a broader narrative for our company and for our industry. So it's really just kind of picking apart his brilliance. And although I'm sure you also know he likes to talk about things and products that are happening in the future, so I do have to kind of put on the dog collar. We're like, hey, we're not ready to talk about that yet. I've got
I
a
mean, you
big
got to
strategy and a plan. Like Verticon this past year, we were showcasing the 88. It was like, trying to keep him. He's so excited to talk about it. Like, no, not yet. Just wait. But
I was at the factory meeting with Randy and Will, like, I don't know, a month before Verticon, and I was trying every which way to get them to give me secrets on the 88. And I couldn't get anything. It was like Fort Knox. You all did a pretty good job at keeping it sealed. We'll talk about that. I think that was a really an amazing moment
Thank you.
for Robinson. So I do want to talk about that. But and I agree. David's an interesting guy in the fact that he's so smart, but he's also pretty articulate. One of the things that I was afraid of my first podcast with David was about the horizontal stabilizer
Mm-hmm.
and Robinson's decision to be very public about essentially saying, "Hey, look, we can do a little bit better with this new stabilizer setup, and here's all the data,
Yeah.
here's all the research, here's the engineering, and this is why it's something that you should consider putting on your aircraft, and that's why we're going to put them on our new aircraft." And in itself, that was a bold move. But I was worried because I'm like, man, I'm about to speak to this, engineer guy. At that time, he wasn't the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I can't stand with an engineer, right? I'm a pilot. I
He's not your typical engineer.
I know that I raise this and I go up and I push this down and I go down. Like that's where I'm at. And David's really good at articulating and breaking things down that are consumable, and that's part of his magic. I'm guessing David could probably go really far in the weeds on a lot of the engineering behind things, but he's
But
also
that's
good.
what makes him a great CEO. He's a great CEO because he can do that. I mean, again, back to your Willy Wonka reference. I mean, if you ever go on a factory tour with David, he knows every metal that goes into every part, how every part is made and forged, and how it used to be made, how it's made now, where it goes in the aircraft. I mean, it's like he can go in the weeds, but that's what makes him a great CEO. Is like he knows every last bit of information about the aircraft, our business, and can put it into practical use. Which is again why it's like just listening to him. It's like I can pick apart some of the things he's talking about and work with my team to help, like, how do we use that in marketing or PR or trade shows? Because he says all these brilliant things that are like super useful.
Yeah. And it's kind of the legacy of Robinson, right? Frank was an engineer first. And, David and I talked a lot about that when he was announced CEO, and just this idea of, Frank probably being very excited in the fact that legacy was being carried on. But enough about David. We love David, but enough about him. We're here to talk about you.
Sure.
Um, your background isn't necessarily in helicopters or aviation. So why don't we just start from kind of your background? I think it was more in the automotive world, and then I'm just curious of how this all happened.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the last 30 years
Okay,
very
let's
quickly.
do it.
In the late 1990s, I had a really cool opportunity coming out of college to participate in what was the original .com boom in the late 90s. And so I went to go work in a PR firm because the first maybe 15 years, 20 years of my career was solely in public relations. But worked for a lot of the .com companies and high-tech companies, and was having to take a lot of really complicated information and call it down to make it so that the general audience could understand. And I remember they were like, "Hey, we're working with a company that does DSL over ISDN," and I was like, "Okay, I don't know what that is." But I worked with a company that launched high-speed internet to the world back
Wow.
in 1996. So there's
The
a whole
interwebs.
the interwebs. I mean, it was like, yeah, cool. I got to be part of that back then. But
That's
there's a
super cool.
whole host of companies that were like that I got to work with, but taking complex information from high-tech companies that I didn't understand, researching it and being able to take care of it. That's kind of where I started. During that .com era, I worked for Yahoo as one of my clients, and Yahoo was launching their autos property. This was like back in 1999. And that's kind of where the automotive part started. So I helped to launch Yahoo Autos, then quickly picked up another account at our agency where we were working on Mitsubishi and cars and products. And then I was recruited. I had a recruiter call me, and they said, "There's this in here. This is where this bridge is going to be fun." I got a phone call from a recruiter about coming to what was a 50-year-old company that was family owned, and the family was stepping back, and a whole new level of investors and people were coming in to take over the company. They had really no marketing and no public relations, no advertising, but they were looking for someone to come in and really change that. and I got the job. And I spent,
That is oddly parallel, by the way. That's weird.
well, I know, and it was up until now was probably the best 10 years of my career. So I went to Kelly Blue Book and took them from a little blue book to being KBB.com and relaunching their whole brand and helping them to kind of usurp what at the time were some of the other auto properties and guidebooks that were providing value. So, I spent 10 years doing that and then got an opportunity to go to Honda, where I was managing product communications, marketing, experiential, and then kind of doing some skunk works projects for them. And then I had an opportunity to work for what was supposed to be the first Chinese car company to launch in the US, but that very quickly didn't happen. There was a lot of political issues in 2020 that stopped that from happening.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's not the greatest year for that type of collaboration.
No, but I could also see there was a lot of challenges in the auto industry, and budgets were kind of diminishing, and jobs and departments were going away. And I strategically took an opportunity to figure out how to get out of the auto industry. So I went back to agency life, where I was going to have a lot of different kinds of clients and different technologies, to kind of really sort out where I wanted to go next. And I worked in mobility. It was a lot of electrified products, so EVs, EV charging, new types of energy. So there was hydrogen or battery propulsion, hybrid propulsion, conversion of energy. There was a company that was able to convert energy out of like heat from concrete or turning garbage into hydrogen.
Nice.
But it's all still kind of related. So, it was interesting, but I had a couple aviation clients and I really liked that and got recruited out of that into an aviation startup. And it had a lot of basis in Robinson. And truth be told, if you didn't know, I live across the street from Robinson.
Yeah.
And I always have. So I didn't even have to move. Like, I've lived here for the last 15 years.
Really?
So
So I didn't actually realize that. That is convenient.
it's a 3-minute commute to work every day now. But when I had heard this position came open, and got a personal introduction to David, and came over here. The first thing when I met him, he gave me the factory tour. That was when I got my Willy Wonka moment.
Yep.
And kind of we talked a little bit about my automotive experience and what I'd been doing in marketing and PR and advertising along the way. But he also talked about how Robinson had a really strong dealer and service center body, and that needed some support. And I said, well, I have that experience from the automotive side as well. Spending 10 years at Honda working on that side too. So it seemed like a match, and he gave me a shot. And again, now I got that 3-minute commute. So that's kind of the last 30 years of my life.
Thank you to our sponsor, Quantum Helicopters. For over 2 decades, Phoenix PD, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Mesa PD, and the Pinell County Sheriff's Office in Arizona have trusted Quantum Helicopters for primary flight training. We've helped boost their efficiency, cut costs, delivered unmatched quality, and keep them focused on public safety. Don't just take our word for it. Reach out and see how we can deliver the same results for your agency. Visit quantumhelicopters.com to learn more.
Man, that was pretty quick. And really, really incredible. What I love is when people walk me through kind of their resume, it always reminds me of like, that you're presented with opportunities and decisions in life, and you kind of have to use your knowledge, but also trust your gut to then go and make those decisions. And a lot of our listeners are maybe getting into aviation, or they're younger in general, so they're just trying to figure it out. And so when I talk about these types of moments and hear about your career, it just reminds me to present the idea of like being flexible and being open, right? When you're navigating your career, be open to opportunity. You start off in one space and then doors potentially open into a whole new space like Kelly Blue Book. And then ultimately Kelly Blue Book turns into some more automotive, but now you're here at Robinson, previously at another aviation startup. So it's crazy to think of this, like, if you're just dead set on like, this is my North Star and this is what I'm doing, then you're likely going to miss opportunity. And you also have to be like willing to take a little bit of a risk, right? I mean, when I hear you coming in, stepping into Robinson, obviously you were at a startup before that was utilizing Robinson products. So you knew what a helicopter was. That's a good start.
Yeah, and one of the things that they had when I was there was they had taken all the mechanical um, parts out of the Robinson and removed like all of the manual flight surfaces, and they were all on a table and they were all labeled. And it was in our offices, and we talked about those parts every day. So it was like I had the opportunity to learn a lot while I was there. I had some great mentors while I was there too. Um, and some of our flight test engineers and the ability to use the simulator and go fly. I mean, it was a good introduction to helicopters, aviation, and inadvertently Robinson.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool. You walked through the factory with David. Was it like a interview, like you're hired at the end of that factory tour, or was there some more back and forth, or how did that all happen?
um, so Kurt Robinson was still running the company, and I think David may or may not have been kind of trying to put together the pieces for the future at that point in time. So, came in, I interviewed, I talked a little bit about my experience, and I think, he was like, yeah, I think there'll be a place for you here eventually. So, I kind of stuck to what I was doing. I did some freelance work on the side. I mean, I always, like you talk about opportunities. I'm like, I consider myself a lifelong learner. So it's like, as long as it's in mobility, I don't care if it gets you from one place to the other. I mean, if it's an e-bike, a helicopter, a car, even if it's like a riding lawnmower, if it's got an engine in it and you can sit on it, whatever, or get into it, that's a product I can market and I can advertise. You know who the customer is. And if you know who the end user is and who's going to sell it and how it all works and why they're going to do it, take the opportunity, learn the industry, learn the product, learn the customer. It's all pretty similar. So, I did that for a little bit, and then finally got a call from David and said, I think it's time. Come meet Kurt. That was the real test, was meeting
Yeah,
Kurt
I'm
Robinson.
sure.
I got through that one actually much more easily than I thought I would. So, it was 2.5 hours with Kurt. And then I felt like, okay, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you come into Robinson, just give us a little bit of a look of what Robinson's kind of marketing and advertising ideas were prior. We'll call it PR prior to Robin, and then PR for post Robin. What was kind of the initiatives, and then when you came in, what were your collective initiatives with David and Kurt at that time to take what Robinson had already been doing to now usher it into this new era?
Well, Robinson had been wildly successful without spending a whole lot of money. And, I think that was something that they wanted to make sure I understood, like, how much do we really need? What do we really need to do? We've got a great, dealer and service center body around the world. We've got, at the time they had, 425 service centers and 140 dealers. In 2008 or 9, I mean, they delivered almost 800 aircraft. And
Crazy.
Kurt and it felt, and then the rest of the team, they just felt like we don't really have to do much to sell aircraft around here. The product sells itself. It's fantastic. So really think about what we actually have to do. So I come in and just like I think any good marketer should. I mean, you come in and you take a look around before you start throwing out your ideas and kicking up budgets of what you want to do. Like what really is the forward trajectory of the company? Where are we going? What do we need to achieve? And learning, I think we all know now about, the 88 and the NXG and some of those things. And when I got in here and I learned about those things, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, and we're buying, Ascent Aero Systems too. Okay. So I could see what was coming. And you take the time to kind of put together a plan and a strategy, you make the recommendation and help them understand the opportunity and the possibility for growth and revenue by just spending a few more dollars.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. I've always asked this question. It's like, I think of Coca-Cola, right? Like when I think of Coca-Cola, I think it's probably one of the most recognizable, or I think it is the most recognizable brand. Nike's up there as well. And I see their advertisements all the time, whether I'm like watching TV, I'm on the internet, I'm at a movie theater, I'm like just being bombarded. And I'm like, man, why do companies like that still even have to market? So like it's still important no matter what, right? To really establish your brand. Would you agree? Obviously.
Oh, of course I agree, but I mean, I think that I worked for Honda. I mean, everybody knows what a Honda is.
Yeah.
I mean, Honda Civic is, at least in the U.S., is like one of the most popular cars of all time. So yeah, and Robinson might be that in general aviation, but it's marketing is more about how the product makes you feel. And when can get and tap into that root emotion, and feel something, that ties you to the brand, gives you a little bit more brand affinity, makes you feel closer to the brand, makes you want to sell it, buy it, fly it, and so, we had to think about not just selling a piece of metal, but selling an emotion and selling a feeling and selling a value, selling trust. We talk about reliability and durability and time tested, and how do we make you feel that? And
Sure.
so, a lot of what we've done or tried to do over the last 2 years is to build these campaigns, like the book behind you, where we're storytelling. Gosh, I hope you've had a chance to read that book. There's some great stories in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big book, Rob. I'm not a great reader. Okay, I'm not a strong reader, but no, I've been flipping through. It's really, to me, if you're in the helicopter world and you love helicopters, you should have the Climb Higher book. It's like cool stories, cool pictures, even the cover photo with it flying with the
Yeah.
glacier in the background. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah,
Uh,
John Davison did a great job with the photography, and I think there's just, there's a lot of emotion just in that photography. But the storytelling in the book, the storytelling we do in our Climb Higher video series, it's a lot of it is about showcasing that our aircraft aren't just, some guy who buys an R-44 to fly for fun, although there's plenty of those, and that's great too.
yeah, we like those
Um,
guys. I like those
but
guys.
like 70% of our aircraft are sold to do work and to help people make money.
Mm.
And I talk to these people every day. They're building their own flight schools, they're doing pipeline survey, they're doing, cargo hook work and utility work. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they're doing. Law enforcement, air medical stuff. I mean, that's what people are doing, and it's the aircraft that enables that. And like our friend Mike Amusio, who he has his R-44, but what it enables him to do with his family, and to go on YouTube and make his videos that he does, it enables him to live a different life. He can go camping and surfing in the same day. He can take his family on trips that most people can't do in a single day.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
help.
helicopters are a fantastic tool. In fact, we should hire you for just helicopter PR in general, because I've always said that, helicopters, I think, have a PR problem, by and large. And I don't think that the greater public actually understands the economic impact. I think that everything in this office, the mic muff here, this camera, these light, everything, somewhere along the chain of manufacture, there's a helicopter, right?
Oh, I
And
love that. We talk about like farm to table.
yeah,
Can I
yeah,
tell you like the 100 stories of like, did you like, we have them, the rudder blades and the downwash drying cherries after the rain so they don't
yeah,
split. You don't realize when you go to the grocery store to buy your cherries that they were probably dried after a rainstorm with a helicopter,
yeah,
or that the beef, when you go get your Australian beef, oh yeah, they were mustered by an R-22, or the tuna. We have so much being used for tuna
oh
spotting.
yeah,
Like the boats can't go out and spine the tuna as quickly as like the R-44 Clipper goes out, spots the tuna, radios the boat. Like it's just insane.
yeah.
Agriculture, ag spraying. There's a helicopter between you and your food. I'm telling you.
No, no, I totally agree with that. And I think it's food. I think it's industry. I think it's manufacturing. I literally think everything. And not to mention life saving too, right? I know that the R88 will be hopefully used for air medical purposes. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is helicopters are an incredible tool for saving lives, for providing aerial law enforcement. I know the R66 and the 44 already have platforms for law
Mm-hmm.
enforcement and use for law enforcement. So I really do think that our economy, every facet of it, is ran through helicopters. But by and large, I think helicopters get a bit of a bad name sometimes. And so I think
Yeah.
it's really cool to be able to showcase not just what helicopters do, but what I really enjoy about the Climb Higher is it's really the people, right? It's this community that makes this industry so special. It's like when we go to Verticon and we're connecting with everyone, it's always a reminder. Or even in Europe, when I saw you last week in Europe or whatever it was, getting to connect with all these amazing people that share the same passion is really exciting. And so with Climb Higher, it feels like you really get to go and vicariously live through the humans that are
Mhm.
controlling the aircraft, right? And I think that that's really important. And I think that that's been a big part of the magic. We'll talk about that, but I just want to go back a little bit. So you come in, obviously, Kurt is still involved at that time. David isn't officially, the big boss
Yeah.
yet. And historically, a company that sells itself, marketing wasn't always a big push. Now you slowly start to kind of throw some ideas out there. What was the reception, and how did you navigate that? Because I feel like it could be very difficult in the beginning to go
Mhm.
from really no marketing to now wanting to push these stories about people and the community of Robinson and et cetera.
There was definitely openness to some of it. I feel like the PR prior to me getting here was like there was so much negativity in the market. It was like maybe we just don't respond. You were even brought it up when David was coming on to talk about the new horizontal stabilizer. That was very un-Robinson like.
Mhm.
If there was anything that could have been perceived as negative, they Robinson typically was like hesitant to approach it. But I feel like we as marketers and public relations folks, we have an opportunity to control the narrative by getting out there ahead of these things and telling our own story first. And that was something David had even asked for in our interview is like, how do we tell our story? Other people have been telling Robinson's story for the last, 20, 30 years. When do we get to tell our story and how do we do that? And, I'm at the interview table and, in the first couple of months, like we could do this and this and this. And he was like, oh, wow. Okay. Let's think about how we do that slowly. But, you do a couple of things and maybe I think they all worked. I don't think there was anything that went too sideways. So, you show this is the idea works and it does advance the brand, advance, the trust in the company, advance how people feel about our brand. And then they go, okay, well, what's the next idea? Okay. And what's the next idea?
Yeah.
And you gain the trust and, it just starts to grow and snowball to the point where we are now, where I'm busy as heck.
You're very busy. We're talking about that before we started recording. Robinson's interesting, right? Because it's very polarizing. And, before you guys came in and kind of shifted things around, a lot of the online chatter was fairly negative, right? And I think because you've been more active in showcasing the aircraft and showcasing the people and all the different industries, I do feel that there's a shift. There's been a shift that's happening to where people are really seeing Robinson in a different light, and really starting to respect the aircraft and the airframe for what it is, right? At the end of the day, you're always going to have your haters, and that just means that you're typically doing something right.
I
Uh,
agree.
so, I mean, kind of sometimes, the more hate, that just means that hey, you're probably doing something that's pretty good. But
I agree.
uh, let's start with Climb Higher. Again, I find it really fascinating. I think the videos are engaging, and again, it's like this storytelling idea. So, I mean, was the Climb Higher really a vision that you had pretty fast, or how did that all come together?
Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. This March, you need to be at Verticon, the largest vertical aviation trade show and conference in the world. With over 15,000 attendees and all the major OEMs and suppliers, it's the place to be. Register today and save. Early bird prices end January 16th. Go to verticon.org.
We started working with it. It's an extremely small team here, extremely small on the PR and marketing side. So we engaged with a small brand agency and we did like a 3-day exercise, kind of talking about who we are, what we believe. And we kind of did our mission, vision, values. how we're perceived now and how we do want to be perceived, and what's important to our dealers and our customers. And really, again, back to how do we want them to feel? And we came to this climb higher conclusion that it could mean a whole lot of different things, which at this point in time, I'm sure you've seen it's our video series. It's a book. It's our dealer and service center campaign that we use. It's part of our advertising campaign. And it's not just about, climb higher in elevation, but, take yourself higher in whatever it is you're doing. Like reach for more, do more, be more. And the way it's even translated into multiple languages, it can be all of those things. So it just became a tagline that really encouraged our employees, our dealers, our owners, and everything to like, what can we all do to go for more? And it worked, and it works across all the platforms. So it's a tagline that we can really take with us to really embody who we are and where every one of us collectively wants to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It really palpitates well. It also feels very aviation-esque too. So I think it's kind of neat to where, yes, there's probably even a greater metaphor than just this idea, of course, of climbing and elevation, but the two together work out, very well. Other than the agriculture, what are some of the surprises of the stories that came from Climb Higher so far, whether it's in the book or the series you created? What is something that really resonated with you of like, oh my gosh, I'm really part of something that is so much bigger than me?
It's honestly, this is gonna sound weird. Maybe it's just because it was my most recent experience that I kind of had my oh my goodness moment. We do a scholarship for the Whirly Girls, and they were just this past week. I think it was just due on Monday. They were asking me to go through all of the scholarship applications and review them and their letters, and looking at all of the people who come from so many different backgrounds of what they've gone through to become a helicopter pilot, or trying to get their CFI, or I think that was kind of mind-blowing to me to see what it takes for all of these people, whether they've gone through military to initially get their initial ratings so that they could get into an aircraft without having to pay all the fees, or people who are have gotten their PPL or trying to get their CPL, and the amount of debt that they're in to try to get there, the jobs that they've all had along the way, and they're still just need like that last boost, and it's those and again, it's the feeling, right? It's the globally, all of these women who have applied for these scholarships have come from every walk of life just to get in the air, just to fly, just to save people, just to do agriculture, just to it is insane to me. It was just an aha moment of how everyone got to where they got.
Yeah.
So that was just this week. So that was cool. But yeah, like the ag stuff has just been really cool. The cattle mustering to me, like, we just put an R-22 in the Ronald Reagan Library here in California.
Really?
Yeah. And it was more about like how when you think about it, helicopters do what cowboys used to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's
true.
Modern horse. And we were kind of going through with the curators at the museum about all the things that horses used to do that now helicopters do. Whether it's slinging logs for Christmas, in Christmas, the Christmas tree slinging was kind of cool too.
That's super cool.
Oh my God, it's like a ballet with the helicopter.
Oh yeah, those guys are. I mean, the truth of that we call that production flying, right? So like if you're not fast, they're going to tell you to leave. Those farmers are paid by the minute, and so time is money. And I love watching that dance. Being up here in Oregon, I think Oregon is the largest exporter of Christmas trees. And so on any given day, say in late November, early December, if you're driving along I-5, you might see the helicopters hard at work. It's pretty fun.
Ed the Zebra was probably my favorite rescue of the year. Do you remember Ed the Zebra?
I do. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so Ed escaped from some guy bought a zebra in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it escaped, and it was like running through people's Ring cameras and neighborhoods for
Yeah,
a week.
I remember the zebra.
Yeah, but there was like I think it was an R-44 out in Tennessee, and one of our operators, they do a lot of animal control, and there's Ed the Zebra flying through the sky in a basket. Mara Elephant Project down in Africa. I mean, they do a lot of anti-poaching
Very cool.
with our aircraft. It's just like all people don't, I mean, maybe in our industry, I think they realize that helicopters are used for work. But, when I talk to friends and family who don't know anything about helicopters, they're shocked when I tell
Yeah.
them what they do.
I just had JARS on the
Yeah.
podcast,
Mhm.
and they are using helicopters to go to remote villages and translate the Bible into new languages. Uh, working through their missionary work. Ethnos 360, also
Yeah.
another missionary. I mean, just so
You
many
don't need a
neat.
runway. You can land anywhere.
You
It's
can
great.
land anywhere. And actually, the missionary pilots are interesting because they're out there for the purpose of they're serving their greater purpose, or what they believe to be is their greater purpose. But through that, they have some pretty wild stories. Pregnant women giving birth in the back of the Robinson. People being sick and stranded in villages and having to get it, landing at a hostile village and trying to take off, and the villagers going crazy. So I mean, those guys pretty wild stories. I think helicopters again just are that tool that really can be used for anything. One time I was flying air medical, and I landed at an exotic ranch in Texas. I didn't realize it at the time until I landed, and in the pasture next to me there's zebras and giraffes, and I'm thinking, did I like take off from San Antonio and end up in South Africa? Like what happened here? But
I mean, our social media channel, Robinson Heli on Instagram, I mean, it's probably about 95% user generated content, because what we've realized is like our owners and operators really are the heroes out there doing that work. And so, when people tag us, you can look at our channel at any given time. It's pretty much all of our owners and operators doing really cool stuff.
yeah,
And it will continue to be that way. And so, even there's days when, my social guy, Evan, shout out to Evan right now.
Evan, what's up, buddy? We love Evan.
He's traveling the world, actually visiting with a lot of our owners and operators. He just visited the Mara Elephant Project to capture a bunch of stuff from them. But he's the one out there doing that stuff, and I don't even know what's getting posted some days. But I'll log in and look at my own social media, and I'm even blown away. Like,
Yeah,
wow, I
that's
had
super
no
cool.
idea that people do this stuff. This is so cool.
Well, and just like helicopters in general are cool, right? And then so you start really showcasing that to the broader audience of, say, Instagram, and you're going to have a lot of even non-helicopter people thinking that it's pretty neat. And I think again, the advantage of that type of content is that it's good for the industry, right? I think anytime there can be positive press about helicopters helping, anti-poaching in Africa, or saving lives, or doing this or doing that, that's just better for the industry, right? And that's kind of the direction that we need to go.
Dude, let's talk about Operation Helo.
Oh, heck yeah, let's talk about Operation Helo. I was actually going to talk about them, but I'm gonna let you start. Talk me through kind of how that all happened, what the perspective was from Robinson. We've had Eric from Operation Helo on.
Yeah.
Quick plug for Helicopter. We are now a proud sponsor of Operation Helo. We recently donated $7,500, and we're donating $750 for every single aircraft transaction that we do. Goes
That's
directly
awesome.
to Operation Helo. So when you're supporting us, you're also supporting Operation Helo. And I know that Robinson has been also a huge advocate and sponsor of Operation Helo. So let's talk about Operation Helo, and tell us kind of the OEM perspective, because it was kind of fun to watch that all. I literally was watching it unfold. I remember David on Facebook, and I'm like seeing it all unfold. So just walk me through it.
Well, like, first of all, let's start with David, because David's all over social media, all over LinkedIn. He's extremely active and engaging. Even, we say we're available, man. He's available on social
The
media.
guy doesn't sleep.
So I don't think he does, but he identified that it was mostly Robinsons being used during the hurricane in North Carolina, and he was like, "Oh my God, do you see what they're using our aircraft for?" Then they had some issues, I think, where they needed a stabilizer or a blade, or they needed something, and David was like,
I think a 44 that ended up landing in a confined area, and he had a little suck in of something, and there was a AOG, get that helicopter flying again.
And it was like all hands on deck. It was like maybe a Saturday morning, and we're all in the joint text message. It was like, hey, Like, can we repost some of their social stuff? Hey, Randy, can we get some parts to them? What do we need to do to help them? Like, they're out there saving lives. What can we do? So we did everything we could to get them the parts they needed so that they could stay flying and continue to deliver the medicines, literally deliver babies, and rescue people off of roofs. So, we did what we could to help them out in that situation, knowing that it was 44s. They came in to visit with us and kind of talked about the footprint of the R-44 literally being one of the only aircraft that could get in and out into those confined areas and really help these people. They had other volunteers in larger aircraft. It wasn't going to work as well. It was tearing up the terrain. The trees were too much, and it just, the 44 was perfect. So, we made some commitments to help train the volunteer pilots and support their organization as best we could. So we've been doing so. And then, they were out in Texas for the flooding on July 4th. We even had some folks related to Robinson who were impacted, who had kids at that camp. So that, it was a little bit more near and dear to us to really, again, get in there and support them and make sure that they could do what they could do to, whether it was get kids out or even just bring some parents some relief to fly the parents of those children over that area. But yeah, this is a bunch of volunteer pilots, and they're all, Robinson owners. And this isn't the first time I've seen this. We had a snow in the mountains here in California about 4 years ago. And a bunch of just local Southern California Robinson owners all got together and were flying in food and blankets because you couldn't get up the mountain. And you see this everywhere. And it's not just in the US. Globally, Robinson owners and pilots are just those kind of people. They do embody the values that we believe here, being humble and, being helpful. That seems to be who those people are. And we love telling those stories. We got involved with Operation Helo. We still are. We nominated them for a public benefit flying award with the National Aeronautical Association, and they won. We were proud to stand next to them in DC a couple months ago and, watch them win that award, and really hope. And if there's any Robinson owners out there who want to join, we would encourage them to join the volunteer program, go through training with us, and, work with them to help save, rescue, and bring things in need to folks in the U.S. who they help.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely terrific. To me, Operation Helo was a reminder that humanity is good.
Yes.
One thing that's always bothered me is sometimes I meet people and they say something like, I just hate everyone. Everyone sucks, or this or that. It's like kind of that mentality of people suck. And what I take of it, because maybe I'm just sensitive, but I'm like, well, that means you don't like me. Like if you don't like people,
with the rich people, like then, go hang out with better people.
Yeah, and I think nowadays, all the amazing things that you guys are doing on social media, there's also a dark side of social media, right? Where it's a 24-hour news cycle, and there's unfortunately, lots of bots and different things that make us hate each other. And I think we're living in a very unique time of more hate and more distrust and more disdain for humanity. And so when we have a moment like Hurricane Helene, which is really 100-year storm, and something that shouldn't ever go so far inland, just unprecedented, crazy storm, and people band together. I'm guessing there was people from all sorts of different lives and backgrounds all coming together, didn't care about left or right or center or man or woman or whatever. It was, hey, we have these tools, we have these helicopters, and these people need help. And to me, it was like this amazing moment for helicopters on a national stage, because it got a lot of press.
Sure did.
Like just people doing the right thing, and helicopters, of course, being the tool that made it all possible. We're talking about like over 4,000 rescues, Starlinks being delivered, so many lives impacted. And I will also say that Operation Helo doesn't just stop at the rescue efforts. They're also providing temporary housing, and they're doing other things within the community to bring it back to whole. And so that to us was the no-brainer of the sponsorship for Helicopter. Historically, we had been really centered around veteran organizations, which I'm also super proud of. We've donated thousands of dollars to different veteran charities. But this Operation Helo just presented such a fun way of connecting with the helicopter industry and with a with a not-profit that is just doing incredible things with helicopters. So
Yes, I
I
agree.
feel really honored to be a part of it. And I was inspired by Robinson, honestly. You guys had really been a big voice for Operation Helo, and your guys' support and sponsorship of them inspired me as a small business owner to say, like, hey man, I can also get involved, right? And I can, albeit make a small difference, right? And so
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Well, someday something might happen in Oregon, and you'll get to be a part. Being a part of it. I mean, you contributed and you helped, and there's that sense of self value and worth just for yourself.
Yep.
Helicopters are great and all, but being part of humanity, like you said, like there's something to say for that, for sure.
Proud moment for helicopters. We only have about 10 minutes left, and what I want to end with, and I think it's proper, is the R-88, right? Last Verticon, I guess this was the first Verticon, huh? Yeah, this was our first official Verticon.
First official, like the name change happened in the middle of the previous one, yeah.
Yeah, so this was our first official, and I was part of the event. I was covering it with Vertical Magazine, kind of as a correspondent. I was the dork running around the reveal with the microphone and chatting with people and having, honestly, a great time. The event itself was incredible. The food, honestly, was great. The swag was awesome, but the reveal was really exciting. And so I guess, like, let's kind of step back a little bit from the reveal itself. And when did you first get read in to the R-88? And what was your vision of how we add excitement? And then how do we present this clean sheet design aircraft to the world?
Well, spending 10 years at Honda and doing product reveals what felt like at every 3 or 4 trade shows a year, and for many years, and I cut my teeth at Honda launching cars and having to come up with the strategy and the big show at the auto shows or even offsite events for that. I had some experience in the auto industry, and the auto industry is a real tough place to do that because there's a new car every 2.5 to every 5 years because that's a product cycle there. Aviation, the product cycles are 10 years or longer.
Yeah.
So I know that the big reveals on aviation are few and far between, whereas cars, it's every 5 minutes. So you have to outdo your competitor pretty often. And so having to best your competitor and best yourself, it takes a lot of time, effort, and creativity. But, I got to aviation and I thought, I'm not an industry I know very well. So this might be tough for me. But because the cycles are so far apart, I don't think that they had seen as much as this industry hasn't seen what I'd seen in automotive. So,
sure.
I just, there was a strategy I employed when I launched the 2016 Civic. Not going to lie, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel so much. It was something that worked really, really well for us back then. It was, the surprise no one saw coming. And it was a car that people couldn't believe was a Civic when it launched. And I basically thought, here's what we're going to do. And I presented the idea to David, and I'll tell you what, the first thing he said to me was, no, we're not doing that. And I really, truly believed in it, and I had seen it work before. So I kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. It wasn't too hard. Maybe took 2 months. I think he finally came around and said, okay, I think that's a good idea. Let's give that a try. And that whole thing is we revealed the product 2 days ahead of the show or 3 days ahead of the show. And we did it with no embargo so that, when you came on Sunday night to this big offsite reveal, it was an event. It was a feeling. It was like you were going to a rock concert,
Yeah, it was really, the energy was nuts.
The energy was pretty nuts and it was pretty awesome. But if you do that like 2 or 3 days ahead of time before the show, you get the buzz ahead of the show. All of the press was about Robinson, and everyone was talking about Robinson long before, the first day Verticon even opened. When the doors for the show did open, people who were not at our event were going beeline for our booth.
Mm-hmm.
And, we did the 1-2 punch where we had our second press conference, right at the opening of the show.
That was smart. Really
So,
well played.
it was just by doing it ahead of time, we kind of got all of the news of the show and really drove. And we had a whole new booth and a whole new look and feel. And, it was like, it was all the things all at once. And I think it had a huge impact, where Kurt may have gone to Heli Expo every year and put 3 helicopters on carpeting with the 3 ferns. I know everybody was used to seeing that. I think, we made a huge impact just with the look and feel.
Yeah.
And the excitement that we drove from having that event on day one, Robinson isn't used to taking more than 2 or 3 orders at a show. And we were able to walk away with, more than 100 deposits. And by the end of the show, it was like, nothing we had experienced before, but it was all in like 6 months of planning. Actually, it was more than 6 months, 9 months of strategy and planning about what are we trying to achieve. We want to change the brand. We want to introduce 2 new products. We want to get our dealers and service centers reinvigorated in the brand. We want to, really showcase who we are and where we're going, and kind of how do we do that, and how many times do we need to do that, whether that was Sunday at the reveal, whether it was Monday at our dealer and service center meeting, Tuesday at our press conference, and Tuesday night at the House of Blues. It was really an opportunity for us to, over the course of 5 or 6 days, show who we are, who we want to be, and who we want to be to the industry, to our dealers, to our customers. Showcase that it's all about them. It's about the mission. It's, and the direction that we're going in. And I think we came out ahead.
Yeah. No, it was really well orchestrated. The 88 reveal was extremely fun. David did a great job too. Standing up there in front of everyone and delivering a powerful
He killed it.
speech. And then the reveal of the NXG was also honestly really exciting for like a booth reveal. And I thought it was well orchestrated again with David and just the way it all happened. You guys, it was grandiose, but it was a grandiose event, right? And it felt big. The House of Blues was really fun. The House of Blues thing was kind of cool for me because, I sit here and I talk to a camera, and it's usually just one other person. In this case, it's you today. And man, my wife can attest. I felt like a celebrity at the House of Blues, man. People were, oh my God, Halsey with the podcast. Can I take your picture and this and that? I wasn't feeling well. I ended up actually getting the entire Verticon, the flu, I think, including David. Apologize. So I was trying to leave. And man, it took us like an hour and a half to leave because I was just getting, pulled. And so that was kind of a cool moment.
And as much as, we can take credit for thinking through the strategy and who we wanted to be. I mean, I guess what Robinson had been doing for the previous, decade or so at Verticon, it was just such a departure. I think that was also part of the impact. But you can, I'll tell you right now, come to Verticon in 2026 because if you think last year was big, just you wait.
What?
I always feel like David's one of sometimes spill the beans about what's going on. I'm not going to spill any beans today, but I will.
You don't want to give me an exclusive? Come on, Robyn.
No. Heck no, but if you thought the 1-2 punch was this year, just you wait till next year.
Okay, well, that's your rally cry if you're listening. Robyn, we're coming up on our time. It's been a real pleasure. I think I would like to have you back on actually in the future and talk a little bit more about the dealership and service center network as well. I know that you are spearheading that, essentially in charge of that. Your business card, as we talked about, isn't long enough for your actual multiple titles. And so it would be fun to have a full conversation on that. I really wanted to talk more on the marketing side today. So I really appreciate you coming on. Congratulations to all the success. I actually, and I'm not just saying this, I've recently said that I think Robyn at Robinson is actually kind of like the most powerful person.
Oh, please.
I'm just saying, I think you're the gatekeeper. I think that I think that you are been making some really big decisions and helping usher in these big decisions, and I think that it's a huge success. And so Robinson is lucky to have you, and I think it's really neat and a great example of be open, be flexible. Right? You never know where
Yeah.
your career is going to take you. One minute you're at Kelly Blue Book, now you're at Robinson Helicopters. You've
Yeah.
done everything in between. You don't look old enough, by the way, to be having such an extensive resume, but good on you. Just so grateful that you came on and chose to talk a little bit about behind the scenes. Here on the Helicopter Podcast, we love talking about helicopters and the men and women that fly helicopters and use helicopters in their daily missions. And Robinson is telling those stories through their Climb Higher, whether it's with the book that I have behind me here or their video series. So it's just really cool that Robinson is taking that approach, and big thanks to Robyn for.
Well, thank you for all of that. I mean, and I don't say this just because it's like the corporate speak, because since I've been here, it's felt like a team effort, a family. David and Randy and Will and everybody here, we're all on the same team. We're all working together. We're a real cohesive team, and we're all doing this together. And I if there's no great product, I got nothing to market, and if there's no great leadership, I got nothing to do. So
It's totally true. Yeah, and it's a strong team, David, from top down. And I've been lucky enough to get to work with a lot of the new team members on a lot of different fun projects. Love coming to the factory, and I look forward to future collaborations, of course, with Robinson. I also sell a lot of Robinson helicopters. So if you're in the market for a used helicopter, that's where I specialize at Helicopter. So you can check us out there, of course. I actually built my business, Robyn, only selling Robinson helicopters. We've since branched out and diversified, but I think I've sold hundreds of Robinsons, honestly.
Well, you keep selling the used ones, and we'll take care of all the new ones over
Okay,
here.
perfect. Well, you got to make them for me to end up selling them used. So appreciate that. To our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's because you guys listen that gives me the voice and the opportunity to talk to the heavy hitters of the industry like Robyn and David and Randy and all the other cool folks that I get to chat with on my podcast on every episode. It's just so cool. To Vertical Magazine and MHM Publishing, thank you guys so much for creating the HeliCASTS platform. If you haven't checked out the other podcasts, they're almost as good as mine. The Hangar Z with John Gray, The Real Rescue with Jason Quinn, Vertical MRO, of course, and now the Valor Flight Crew, which is all about air medical, hopefully with some future talk about the R88 in the air medical space. So check it out on the HeliCASTS platform. Robyn, thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Quantum Helicopters. For over 2 decades, Phoenix PD, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Mesa PD, and the Pinal County Sheriff's Office in Arizona have trusted Quantum Helicopters for primary flight training. We've helped boost their efficiency, cut costs, delivered unmatched quality, and keep them focused on public safety. Don't just take our word for it. Reach out and see how we can deliver the same results for your agency. Visit quantumhelicopters.com to learn more. Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. This March, you need to be at Verticon, the largest vertical aviation trade show and conference in the world. With over 15,000 attendees and all the major OEMs and suppliers, it's the place to be. Register today and save. Early bird prices end January 16th. Go to verticon.org.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.